occupational therapists, massage yoga. We've just been working with a colour and sound therapist. She's been amazing. Aquatic professionals and therapists. So again, we're taking all their nuggets of information. We might spend sometimes a year with them, if not longer. And then we're learning what works for them in their therapy, and then we're bringing it alive in the pool. So today I'm going to be just sharing some of their little nuggets with you on the baby side. It's very much a mindful and attuned approach to swimming. And something that I'm really keen to give to you today is to be sensory aware, more sensory aware. So everything we do, we are looking at our senses and how they work. So, has anybody read any parenting books? The foundation, a lot of parenting books says that we should show up. We should be present for our children. We should be responsive for their needs. And one of our favourite expressions that we always say to our parents is, from a child's perspective, when I feel safe, I'm ready to explore. Now that might seem a really, really simple statement, but if a child doesn't have that sense of security and safety, they are not going to be fulfilling their potential in their swimming. And for babies, that's really, really important. And we'll have a think a bit later about our changing world, but this statement is really, really important because everything that we know in our world today does feel a little bit more uncertain. We've lost our safety net, so we've really got to look at this safety part of swimming and everything that we do with a lot more detail. So it's, again, worth reminding ourselves that a baby's brain works from their emotional centre. Their prefrontal cortex, their rational brain, is yet to be developed. And that's really important because they are so dependent on their caregiver, their parent, for their emotional and their physical regulation. And the reason why I say that is because our society does the opposite, particularly in the UK and probably where you are as well, because it's a world issue really. We're striving always for independence. We're setting goals, milestones, outcomes. There's a lot of tests, even for little tots as well. So we need to really think about our little ones are far more dependent on us than we actually give them credit for. So you might think this is a bit strange that I have started from a womb perspective, bring me home. But the reason why I've come from this slide, first of all, to give you the foundation, is because so many baby swim teachers say, oh, they love it, it's great. It's just like, you know, being in the womb, yeah? It's that innate, that primitive response. So I want to go through what is happening for our babies in a womb, and then shall we think from a sensory and a baby swim perspective, is it the same? What differences and what similarities are there? So a birth journey really, really matters, from conception to the birth, far more than we will ever really know. And there's a huge amount of body of research, and this is coming through all the time. There's a huge movement called what in utero matters. So if that's something you're interested in, it's a huge body of research. But let's think about the little fetus in the womb. They feel safe in the warm waters. They're rocking and rhythmical, and this is really important for their inner balance, their vestibular system. They are muffled sounds. It's beautiful sounds from the wall of the womb, but they can taste and smell, and they can hear from a very early age. But their vision is, their eyes are closed until they're at the later stage of their fourth trimester. But when they are born, it's amazing. Their eyes open and they seek out faces. It's an innate desire to actually recognize and to be really pulled to faces. And really, we know that they just love, and they have an intimate relationship with their mother, and they recognize the voice. So just on those small points, I would say, are we when we're designing our baby swim programs, really thinking about the fundamentals and actually thinking about our holds and moves. Do we do a lot of face-to-face work? Is there a lot of verbal communication? And how different is the womb environment to our baby swim pools? Because a lot of people just say, oh, they'll love it. It's the same. They're just used to being in water in the womb. So it's not quite like that, is it? Our baby swim pools are bright, loud, not necessarily the same warmth. So that's something that, you know, just to bear in mind and have a little think about. So the next few slides I've written from the eye of the child, and that's really important. That's the essence of aquasensory. I don't know how many of you guys have a newborn program, but newborns for me is from birth until the 3-month stage. And I'll go on to say, you know, when do you start baby swimming? But the newborns, let's have a little think about them. Everything is sensitive to them, okay? They are born sensory sensitive. The light, loud noises startles them, have a really strong sense of smell because they need it to pull them towards the breast milk. Changes in temperature, they can't regulate themselves. They're so dependent on their caregivers and their parents for every need. And in actual fact, they're external gestators. They're born premature, around about 9 months. So that's really important to remember, that their brain development happens in the first few months outside the womb. So when I say they're sensory sensitive, we really must be thinking about all of their environment and giving them the right sensory harmony for their brain and their body, because they're having to work super, super hard. And if they're having to regulate more their environment, then they're not going to be able to get all the vital nutrients to be able to replenish their bodies and their brains, because their connections are all there working. So all the connections in their brain are there, but there's very little working connections. So that's what we want to do. We want to create strong foundations in their baby's brain. A very important point is that their skin is very thin and very new. So again, when we're thinking about newborn swimming, we really must think about protecting them in all sorts of different ways with their skin as well. And they're feeling everything, they're sensing everything. So my next question is, with newborns, when are they ready to swim? Should we be putting newborns into a swimming pool? Now, in the UK, unfortunately, we do strive for very, very early swimming. We actually, in actual fact, a lot of the time, it makes national press. Babies like 1 day, 2 days, 3 days old, and I can send you some examples, and that horrifies me. Why we are creating celebrations around baby swimming in baby swim programs at very, very early age, a few days old. We really, in my judgment, should be at home with the parents, and the midwives and our medical professions say that in actual fact you shouldn't bath even babies too early. So I'm not here to judge and I'm not here to diagnose anything, but I am to say, let's think of everything from the eye of the baby. I can't say when any baby or parent is ready to swim. For some, it might be 6 weeks, it might be 10, it might be 3 months, 6 months, but whatever it is, if it's okay with the parent and the baby, that's good. But I wouldn't suggest baby swimming in programs under 6 weeks. That is something that I will stand up for. So when babies are in the swimming pool, we know that their heads are all really wobbly. They've still got their really strong primitive reflexes. They're very jerky. And of course, they sleep and they feed lots. So our swim programs, and when we hire pools, or when we're doing our programs, it's a very small sort of slot, isn't it? And what we're doing is we're slotting babies into our timings. And that's where a lot of the problems come up from, because we're not going with their needs. Half the time they come to the pool, they're very, very sleepy, or they're really hungry. So again, they need to be regulated to really get the best out of their baby swim. And again, They're sensing their parent and the environment, moods and vibes. It's all about energies. Babies work from their energy, their core centers. And of course, they enjoy the really, really simple things. Less is more for baby swimming. It's worth remembering that their cord under 6 weeks isn't quite slightly healed. So again, that's why I say 6 weeks is a time where I would look at starting if I was doing any baby swimming. So it's really important that we talk to our little ones, our babies, and we reassure them, and we're taking them through everything that we do. So I love baby swimming in terms of the touch and the massage. And I always remind parents to see their child and their babies for exactly who they are. So moving on then, 3 months. This is when babies are a lot stronger. But what's really interesting is that, have you ever noticed that some little ones are really highly sensitive to the water in the pool? And that could possibly be because it's triggering their womb memories and their birth journey, not only for their child, but for the parent too. So you might want to look at some sort of welcome tour, questions with parents, and just having some very open statement, non-judgmental, not going into loads of detail, but is there anything that we can help you with, particularly if babies are having a strong reaction in the pool? Babies need to know what's happening. So I've got baby Bob here. This is my baby that I use for the pool. And it sounds a bit strange and simple, but we do check in with baby and we say, "Are we going swimming? Are you ready?" Something as simple as that. We're checking in with baby and we're also checking in with ourselves. So at 3 months, they're much stronger, aren't they? Their head's more stronger, their vision. And remember, they're still actually, because obviously newborn babies, their vision's very blurry. But at 3 months, their vision is stronger, but they're still only able to see around about 30 centimetres. So again, that simple thought, how many toys and resources do you use in the pool at 3 months? A lot of the time, people do put in far too many toys and resources for babies when really they only need the real simple things. And actually their vision is really just about 30 centimetres. So I would always suggest to have far more face-to-face contact and less resources for our little ones. But what they do enjoy is toys and putting them in their mouths. Now, I don't want to go too much into sort of our national guidance, but there is suggestions not to use or not to allow children to put toys in their mouths. We've got to be very careful when it comes to baby swimming, and as long as obviously they're really sanitized and cleansed, because the problem is that babies self-soothe and they're emotionally regulating, and if we're constantly taking the toys off and not allowing that self-soothe, we will have a lot of more unsettled babies in the pool. So we need to really think about, when we're looking at all our national guidance, that we are actually still taking into consideration the emotional needs and the sensory needs of our children. Because in actual fact, when they're putting toys in their mouth, they are discovering their whole world. They're actually making sense of everything, and a lot of it is actually through the mouth. So we all know that babies at 3 months love back floating and the swimming. And that's really important because they're being able to really feel that movement and be free. I'm not a massive advocate of cup conditioning and water over their face. Water work is important, and we've got a webinar with submersion, so I'm going to cover that a bit later in a lot more detail. But we do enjoy a lot of water work and sprinkles, and we always start from the back of the head, and that's because it's our main cranial nerves, very, very highly sensitive, because we've got to be protecting all our senses on our face. Very, very sensitive, the face, so we don't start at the front. We always start water work at the back. But what we do know about our babies is that they love skin to skin, they love cuddles, they love hearing our voice. How many times do parents come in the pool, and they don't mean it, again, we're non-judgmental, but their dry instincts suddenly just disappear when they're in the pool. It's like a different environment, and they're a bit more nervous. And a lot of the time, they don't talk to their babies. So part of our program at Aqua seems a bit weird, but we guide and we show our parents how to talk to their babies in the pool. And that's a really big part of the foundation of our first few weeks. And I've got a video at the end to show you that as well. So all the time we're saying to babies, and I love this picture where she's looking at little one as well, we're tuning in and we're saying, wow, what are you seeing? Where are your eyes? So you're really sensing what they're feeling, and then you're altering your holds and moves around baby. So let's have a think about babies that are 6 months now. What's really interesting about babies at 6 months, obviously they're much more stronger and they're able, or some babies are able to sit up. And that's really important, because what we need to do as baby swim teachers is go with the developmental stage of the child. We shouldn't have our swim programs that go in, right, now it's all about tummy time, now it's all about sitting time, now it's about jumping. At 6 months, you're going to have some babies that are still at the tummy time stage. Some babies are going to be rolling, and some babies are going to start to sit up. So have a think about their developmental stage and really plug in their movements of what their brain and body is doing at the time. I'm a massive advocate of the RIE approach, the Pickler approach, which doesn't mean that we're constantly pushing children outside their developmental boundaries and guidelines. We want children to feel really beautiful and free in the pool. So at 6 months, we're always saying that they're so much more aware. What are they curious in? What are they exploring? Let's give them what they are interested in, rather than us choosing everything as teachers and parents. And they love, the really simple things, catching the water sprinkles, using their little fingers, which is really good for fine motor skill development. They enjoy rolling and wriggling. How many times do you allow your little ones to literally spend time in the water rolling, or on a mat, allowing them to reach for a toy and roll? Again, I don't want to judge, but half the time our baby swim moves is actually rolling them for them. So we go, roll over, or we have an open arm and then we roll over, or they're on a mat and we roll them over. So a lot of the time we are actually preempting the movements for our little ones rather than them do it themselves. And the way the brain and the body maps is that if a child is much more active in their movement patterns, then they're going to learn quicker. The brain is going to make not only connections, but stronger connections, repetitive movement. If we're constantly doing the movement ourselves, then the child's just going to be passive and they're not going to be learning the same body and brain movements. So one of the last points on this slide is about copying, and I'm sure you've heard about mirror neurons, but it's so important. It's the way the brain is primed to learn. So we want to be doing lots more movements and holds in the pool where we are the models, as in the teachers, but we're guiding the parents. So the child is really copying and learning from them, rather than adding in too much external noise in the environment. So I hope that's making more sense to you. One of the questions that I always get asked, and this came from another presentation, is when do I stay in the pool? When do you advise my babies to stay in? Or when should you be getting out? And I can't give you that simple answer. I will always say, what is baby saying? But it's really important that every baby has a story. We don't just look at what's happening now, we actually try to work out what's happened before, because every small cue is a clue to what's going on. And we need to really spend more time listening, pausing, learning, tuning in, and forming a real parent partnership approach. So it's really easy to pick up all the big cues, isn't it? The whimpers and the cries. But what was the story and the background before we got to that point? Because there'll always be something going on. So you probably know these, but the subtle cues are very much, baby really sort of thinking, I'm unsure here, could be frowning. Gazing away is really important. I've had parents in my pool not meaning to and not realizing what they're doing, but because baby's gazing away, they've clicked their fingers and they're trying to move baby's head to them. And I'm like, oh, no. And I have a real hold and move to help parents understand that regulation, baby will gaze away so they're not sensory overloading. And in actual fact, when your baby is gazing away, it's really important to pause, to stop, and to breathe. And then what happens is baby's able to regulate from their sensory environment and then they come back in. So that's really important. So if you see any parents with their face and trying to follow them, they're just adding in another stimuli, and obviously clicking is really not the right thing to do. So yawning's really interesting. Yawning could be tiredness, but a lot of the time it's that energy release as well. So babies, again, are regulating themselves in their environment. They might have their hands in their mouth a lot. That's self-soothing. So that's actually a good thing. Again, I've had daddies, unfortunately, pull their hands out their mouths, not realizing how much sensory input and emotional regulation is helping children to self-soothe. Because remember, when they're in the womb, they're sucking their thumbs. They're absolutely loving that regulation. Skin colour change is another really subtle cue, and all children have a different skin colour in the pool because they're regulating, but it's important to know what every child normally looks like. And then sometimes they can go pink and blotchy, they can go white, grey. So subtle skin changes is something's going on inside. And then we've got our big cues, which are much more easy to spot. The clingy children, or the pulling away from the sensory stimuli, or maybe their body's becoming a bit tense. And then, of course, the whimper and cry. So again, no judgmental, but if we do have children that are whimpering and crying, we need to give them some sensory input to what they would need. And that could be close holds, that could be rhythmical rocking, that could actually be not much at all. Because every time we're actually giving them something slightly different, we're adding in another sensory layer. So I'll quickly go over that. So if you think this could be one sensory layer, which is skin to skin. If we bounce up and down, that's another. And then we start talking to them or humming or singing, that's another. So we've got to think about even the smallest things for our little ones is another sensory layer. Turning them out, vision out, that's another layer as well. So later on, I've got a few more points on sensory layers for you. So we're coming towards the end of the first part, which again is putting us into the brain and the body of babies. And I like to think of babies as all as sensory babies. And I would advise you to really start to look at your pool environments and to think about the eyes of the child. Really assess the sounds, the sights, the smells, the water temperature, the facilities, and to question, are they really suitable for baby swimming and what age? Again, I'm not judging and saying it has to be perfect, but there's always something you might be able to tweak that will then help a little bit more sensory harmony. And if you've got a very stimulating environment, then it might be so simple just to take away a few layers. I would really advocate to learn to how to tune in and to talk baby, because it's all about their needs and being responsive to them. Creating space in your programs is amazing. And it seems like you're not doing a lot, but in actual fact, you'll be doing far more than you know for every baby. And one of my favorite expressions is that we are human beings. We are there to simply be. We are not human doings. And half the time, we are so busy, aren't we? We just want to do activities. We want to go, go, go. We want to do, jump in, and then we want to do front work, and then we want to do back work. Then we want to do toy chasing work. So we've got to look at the balance really, and to get that sensory harmony. And to remember that all babies develop at different rates at different time. And the parent is so important, that partnership approach, because in actual fact, they're going to be reflecting what their baby is perhaps feeling in the pool as well. The parent is so, so important. So again, we do a lot more work on the parent as well before the baby swimming as well. And I'll get onto that in the part 2. So let's meet babies and parents where they are at. Okay, it's not for us to judge and for when they come into our program to think everybody's going to be anxious, they're all going to forget exactly what we've taught them before, or they're this or that. I would always say, let's meet baby and parent where they're at when they're coming into our swim programs, and actually every week as well, because we don't know what's going on in their lives. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. I hope it wasn't too quick for you, because I did want to give you loads and loads of information, probably too much information, but it's a bit of a prompt for you to really think about the eyes of the child at different developmental levels. Are there any questions, Tori?
Yes, Jo, there are. Would you recommend dummies in the pool to self-soothe?
If a baby is reliant on a dummy, then yes, I would say that, if that's their one thing that really helps them soothe. We've got to remember that babies are very quick at self-soothing. So sometimes what happens is that the parent is given a dummy and the baby will maybe spit it out that they are self-regulated, but it will be the parent that puts it in. Okay, so what we've got to be is very, if a baby needs a self-soothe or a dummy, yes, but half the time they don't need it, and it's the parent trying to just use almost an artificial prop to put in baby's mouth, rather than read baby and all the cues before. So it's one of those really.
Okay, we've got a question from Shiona. She says, what is your view on singing to babies during lessons? Is that sensory overloading?
Okay, you can sing in all sorts of different ways. So if you were singing happy and you know it, and you were jumping babies up and down, you were splashing, you were moving round, and you were talking about babies that were quite young, then perhaps I would say yes. If you were using your voice and you were perhaps humming, you were slow, you were rhythmical, we sometimes do it's weird, isn't it, when you haven't talked for a while, you're like trying to recall all the things. Baby lies over the ocean, and very, very slow. So my baby lies over the ocean. So that's going to have a very different effect than obviously happy and it's splash up and down. So I would match the energy and the level of the sensory input for each stage, and to look at your programs. So it's not an easy black and white, really.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Jo, Lynn asks, for babies 6 to 9 months, how many would you recommend in a class, giving they are with their parents in the pool? Also the length of the lesson.
Okay, so I would always go with our national guidelines. I don't know if they're the same as the UK, but we have smaller babies we're regulating them at around about 20 minutes, and we're making sure that after 20 minutes that is baby okay. So these are sort of small babies under 3 months. Recommended lesson time is about 30 minutes for baby swim, but I would always look at how baby is responding in the pool. I probably wouldn't push it more than 30 minutes. In actual fact, my baby swim, my newborn program, I have a lot of dry work, and then I bring them into the pool, so I'm able to really help them understand the dry work is actually as important. So if they were to get out the pool and feed, then that's okay, because that's actually part of the lesson and they're able to watch and copy what's happening. In terms of the numbers, I think, again, it depends on the whole environment. I don't ever take a black and white approach. I have had classes where I've had 4 children or 3 babies, and for whatever reason, the parents have been friends and they've rushed in and they've just, really churning the water XYZ, and everybody has been unsettled. And I've had classes of 10, the best lesson ever. So again, I think it's matching the energy and the holds and moves rather than thinking it's numbers. But of course, the more you've got in the pool, the more dynamics you're going to add, definitely.
Okay, and Jo, we'll do one last question. At what age and level do you hand over baby or toddlers to the teacher and the parent gets out the pool?
So again, no black and white. It all depends on when the child needs, but around about 3 is where children have got a natural strive for much more independence. So some parents do work better without their child in the pool, and we have got some children that really emotionally aren't ready, even at 4 and 5. Even when they've gone to school in key stage 1, we've advised parents to actually come back into the pool for a bit, because there's too many changes happening, and then they've had a couple of terms. So again, there's no black and white answer, but 3 to 4, we do have parents out of the pool at that sort of age.
Awesome. Would you like another question, or would you like to carry on with the next session?
I'll carry on if that's okay, and we'll have some at the end.
Perfect. Thanks, Jo.
Lovely. You're welcome. So one of the reasons why I absolutely love Aqua Sensory, because it is all about the senses, but we forget the senses is about how we actually feel. It's about us and how we explore our world. A lot of the time, we're so focused on sensory work, what I call the puppets and the parachutes, the sort of, the jazz of it all. And we forget that it's the essence of who we are. And I remember when I got into baby swimming, and Emmy is still working today as a tutor, and I took my son Kane to her, and she gave me that connection, that deep feeling. And I'm sure you guys do the most wonderful job, and you will be giving it to your parents too. And it's not to be undervalued, underestimated. It's such an internal feeling. People will forget about what we did, but they will never forget about how they made me feel. So I love that quote, and that's why I'm in baby swimming today, because I had such a connection in the pool. Just find my little mouse. So when we go on to the practical side, it's really important that we don't miss ourselves out of the equation. So many times we really focus on the 30 minutes in the lesson, and we don't have much thought about the parent, or we even forget about us in the whole equation. But Aqua Sensory, we start with us. We have an expression: the more we listen, the more we hear. The more aware, the more you're like, oh my goodness. Couple of more of the webinars, this theme is going to be coming through much more on reflective practices. But we have something, and again, this is taking therapeutical language into the pool. So loads of people use this if they're cranial work or massage work. It's about being grounded, really being present in the moment. It's about being balanced and neutral, non-judgmental, but also neutral how we're holding children, not too tight or not too sloppy. So really having to think about our language that we're using in the pool. I like to think of ourselves as the compass, the GPS, the navigators, because we're balancing all that water energies and activities. And it's everything for our voice, our touch, and our inner flow. We're going to be projecting so much. So I would say to every baby swim teacher, what were your first water memories? And how are you in the pool? How do you project yourself? Do you mind putting your face in? And what do you look like when you put your face in? I wear contacts, so I have to be really careful, because when I come up, do you mind getting your hair wet? What do you look like? Do you like singing? Whatever it is, it's fine. But it's really interesting just to know, what inner gifts and what do you bring to the water? So we always start with us. And if anybody's interested in this type of work, we've got so much. And that's something I should say. Every single slide here, I could probably talk an hour or more on every single slide. So if you're interested in any part of this work, give us a shout after, because there's a huge amount. Every single thing is about a module in itself. So let's talk about sensory foundations. Breath, touch, body position. Again, huge body of work here. But when we think about breath in the pool, so many people just think about bubbles and we think about the submersion side. But when I think about breath in the pool, I'm doing a lot of work on regulation, on calming, and gaining that inner flow. When I think about touch, it's not just about my front holds, my back holds, my side holds. I'm tuning into baby and I'm thinking about their tactile preferences, the way I hold them, the way I support them, gentle voices, gentle holds. I'm tuning in to exactly what baby needs. And I'm really thinking about where I'm placing my hands, how I'm touching them, how I'm holding them in the pool, and I'm overlaying all of those messages with the parents too. So as you can imagine, huge amount of work that we do on touch, because it's our foundation sense and it goes through to our safety. So it's really, really important, touch in the pool. And we work on our body position as teachers, and body position so our parents feel very comfortable and balanced in the pool as well. So they're able to really give the children that stable base. So body position, again, starts with us working on our parent and baby. We have something in our program called Finding Our Feet, where we're really thinking about our feet on the pool floor and we're working out what feels comfortable. Does a wide stance feel comfortable, or a split stance, so we feel really present in the moment and grounded? And we want to be growing that confidence and trust. So looking at our photos, the bottom photo, baby is absolutely loving his back swim. You can see, because he's open, he's relaxed, and mummy's obviously very, very confident because she doesn't even need a pool noodle. And again, mummy at the front at the first photo, really nice and low in the water, nice feather fingers, not holding too tightly, shoulders under. So we spend a lot of time on small tweaks, gaining the best body position. And all the time when we're floating, we want that beautiful back, neck, and spine alignment as well. Breath and flow. So again, what does our breath as teachers reflect in the pool? Are we holding our breath? Are we shouting? How do we feel emotionally that day? We check into ourselves first of all, and we allow our parents to check in too, because babies are going to be copying and watching us. And we've got to feel in flow if we are going under the water and we're really showing our children how to enjoy the underwater world. So many times as baby swim instructors, it's almost like peer pressure, isn't it? We come in a circle and we might do ring a roses, hokey pokey, and we all fall down, and we expect parents and babies just to plop under the water all together. So again, breath and inner flow is so, so important. And I love the expression, babies are feeling, aren't they? They're feeling all the time, their mummy, and feeling as one in flow. So I said about touch. Touch isn't just about how we hold the child. It's also about touching through the eyes and the voice and being present in the moment. And touch is really, it's just the small details. I mean, you've got in that photo here, you know, offering a finger and allowing baby to hold on is a very primitive reflex, the palmar graph reflex. And that's really beautiful, okay? So baby's getting a very small sensory regulation just from a little finger hold. And you can tell baby in the bottom photo absolutely loves a little hold of the hand, because then they're reaching out and they're really curious. Obviously, the new guidelines, you probably won't be able to hold babies in the same way, and you're going to have a demo doll. So we're going to have a see how that feels in the water. But one of the top tips, if you have babies that are unsettled, you have an imaginary line down the from the head to the bottom, the midline. Bringing hands into midline is a really calming way for babies, because when they are unsettled, they can have arms out and morrow and frail, a startle reflex. So bringing arms into midline. I would always ask the parent, what do they enjoy at home? If they enjoy being swaddled, they will prefer to have much more contained holds. So you're holding them a little bit more tightly. If they like slings as well, then they're going to probably prefer much more holds in. If you've got nosy babies, then they're going to be able to, you know, enjoy holds out. So we are responding to their needs and giving them sensory regulation and input that they need. So that's what it's all about, isn't it? We want to bring that safety to our little ones. Close heart to heart, skin to skin, or perhaps out, and then just pausing and breath work. And looking at that bottom picture, you can tell baby is not ready to jump off that mat. Arm out, and she's saying, "Mummy, come closer." How many times do you have parents, again, not trying to be too judgmental, but they hold on to their hands, 1, 2, 3, and they pull them in? We've got to recognize that when baby is ready and happy, they're going to be leaning forward, really bright eyes. We want open, soft hands to show them that we are here, we're their safe base. Come, when you're ready, I'm here for you. And to come much closer. Mummy would have had a much better response just actually by leaning her body in more. So we want to be empowering parents, and we want them to be trusting their instincts. Sensory rhythms and dynamics is one of my favorite things to do in the pool, because every person has a natural tempo inside and pace. I hope I'm not talking too quickly, because I'm just thinking about the time and I'm realizing that my tempo now is getting quicker. But it's really interesting, isn't it? When you have parents and children at different tempos, how out of sync can they be? You know, when you get a really quick parent and they're really busy and they're speedy and their child is just on go slow, how much that's a bit of a mismatch. Or how much you find that you've got some parents and they just, everything clicks and they just get it. They're beautiful, they're working as one. Half the time it's because of their inner flows and their rhythms and their tempos are matched, which is why we always say, go to the pace and tempo of the child, not yours. Now, some little ones do enjoy fast work, so they will enjoy more bounces. They will enjoy more lifts. They will enjoy more little harbours, not just static, but flowing and up and down. So we do have in our program, it's not all about slow work. It is that fast work. It's building that inner strength and core work. So we're matching the sensory experiences of the child. We know our children that are sensory seekers, and we understand which of our children are sensory avoiders. And we're building in definitely areas of pausing and slow. So again, matching the energy and the activities for our children. So what we do is we have levels, and we say to our parents, try this or try that. What does your child enjoy? So if we're doing back work, for example, we might have a position 1, which is a little bit more upright, because some children do have very strong cores and they want to sit upright. And this is really important as well, because the eyes are very, very important for the compass and the visual for the vestibular system. A lot of parents and swim teachers just go straight to this position on their back, and they're taking out their visual compass. So half the time, an upright move is just what children need. And then you're grounding them onto the shoulder, and then you're rocking them backwards and forwards. That's probably enough for little babies. But then if they're happy with that, then you can go a little bit more, and then you're going into the stage of the back float. So you're taking it very, 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 very slow. But you're giving parents the opportunity of knowing what position is comfortable for their little ones, and whatever feels good for their little ones is what you go with. And that can change week to week too. And I'm sure you guys do that as well. So coming towards the end, do want to point out that everybody knows our world is completely changing. It's a bit upside down at the moment, isn't it? So the more security and safety that we can give our parents, to give them that familiar, how we're going to bring that back into maybe welcome packs, tours, videos. We're going to create lovely bubbles in the pool so they can really feel safe. And we want to empower the parents again, don't we? So we need to be really thinking about going a bit slower in our programs, first of all. The time to explore and to use the phrase, I love our phrase, we wait, we watch, and we wonder. So we're going to meet our parents and children where they're at. And of course, I think we're going to have to use a lot more dolls. We're not going to be able to, have as much physical touch with our babies. And my big thing is to choose your resources with care. We've just written a course which is all about colour and sound. If anybody's interested, get in touch, and I'll pop a email with Tori as well. There's a bit of a discount code this week. We really think about how we use our voice and what we're adding into the pool in terms of colour and sound, because it works on so many different levels, educationally, vibrationally, energetically. It's such a healing thing. So we can actually really think about adding colours in that will really ground our children as well. So colours like green and red, you wouldn't necessarily think are really grounding colours, but they are. So if you're interested in that type of work, give us a shout. So this is a video, and you might think, this is very, very slow, but this was a very first baby class. So you'll see that we start from outside the pool, we're talking to them, how they get into the pool nice and slow, and we're allowing some space around the activities as well. So I will play you our video to finish up. To the pool at baby's pace. And remember, you're going to use the water temperature as well as the feel of the water. Right. And mummies are just to check into yourself. And after you've checked into yourself, then check into the baby. Baby. So we weren't over teaching there in that video at all. We were allowing, and in subsequent weeks, when we know that all parents and little ones are regulated, we start to add in a lot more of the halted moves. But we would have been able to really guide our parents, and we don't teach. This is something that I'm really, really advocate. We don't teach, we facilitate really in the pool. So as I say, Aquasensory, if you're interested, we have all sorts of things that we offer support for swim schools. We have a monthly tribe membership, and that's really nice, where we have a database of resources where we're working with lots of people, adding in new resources each month, and a support group, as well as courses online. We've just released a month ago our Emotions in Water, and this week about colour and sound water play. So we're working with therapists, we're getting those lovely nuggets of information. You know, some of these therapists have been working, 20, 30 years, and we're just pulling out everything. We try, test and tune, and then pop it in the pool. So we're really excited and proud of our work, because it can just be that one thing that suddenly changes the whole feel of the class. It's very, very subtle details, and suddenly it's that mind shift for you, and it's like, oh my goodness. So that's what Aquasensory sometimes does in the pool. So wrapping up to a couple of questions to finish. This is Christian saying, and I love it: the best things you can take to the pool aren't things. Think about the confidence, the self-esteem, the mindfulness. I mean, you're really bringing in the essence of the child, and it's their foundation stones of who they are. We're so lucky as swim teachers to be working in water. Water gives us so much. So, any questions, Tori?
Thank you so much, Jo. Yes, there are a few questions. And I just wanted to add that I have done the Aquasensory courses, and I can really highly recommend them. I'm also part of Jo's Aquasensory tribe, and she gives so much information. Every week there is just tons and tons of info, and it really has just leveled up all my classes. So not only do I take into consideration all what I learned for my baby classes, but also for Learn to Swim and everything, which is really amazing. So thank you, Jo, for bringing such a new perspective and a different perspective that really enhances our swimming lessons. So I do have a few questions. Sarah asks, if a baby is crying and clearly not happy, what do you suggest?
Okay, so some of the times you can really see and spot what the problem is, okay? If they're really clearly so hungry and they've shown all these cues, then there's nothing you can do in the pool. That baby needs to feed. It's their basic need. And I would suggest we do have parents breastfeeding at our steps or on the side of the pool. Baby needs to get out. There's nothing you can do. You can really see there's a feed. Sometimes it could just be the fact that parent has been really clumsy, and actually all they need is a bit more support. So I've had babies that are like crying, and then parents go, oh my God, you're such a baby whisperer. And I think, I'm not. All I've done is given baby, been more comfortable in the pool, brought them upright, face to face, or a little squish or a little hold, a little bounce, and baby stops crying. So it's not a black and white answer. We've got to be much more like detectives in working out all their cues, the before and after, and then you sort of know. But yes, if a baby is clearly agitated, needs to get out, then we will be not fulfilling their needs by keeping them in the pool.
And also, if they are overstimulated, sometimes I find just moving out of the circle or going to the step can just make such a difference. And then just reconnect, the parent just reconnect and try and really get in touch to what the baby's feeling and really help.
Definitely, because what I'll also say is that, you know, when babies are crying, it's not just affecting the parent, it's affecting other people in the class. And the baby cries, it's agitating, and it's our alarm systems going off as well. So as swim teachers, we tend to rush, and we are a little bit like on high alert, and then we just try to either ignore it, or we try to just push them out, and actually to regulate them and give them the emotional what they need is far better.
Lily asks, what is your view on a silicone swim hat on a baby?
So we don't use them, so I haven't got a huge amount of experience to pull from, but some babies do enjoy feeling a lot closer and tighter, so perhaps that can give them some proprioception calming, particularly on their head. Also, babies will lose a lot of heat from their head, so that can actually protect in terms of warmth. But again, I think it's very much down to a child's individual needs. It's a bit similar to those little wetsuits. Some children are very calmed by wetsuits, and some absolutely don't like it because they want skin to skin and they want to feel free. So again, I think it's a very individual question, really.
Jo, there are so many thank yous. Lynette says the best webinar. Thank you. Jody says thank you. This was amazing. Shirley says thanks for this. I will also take some of it into my Learn to Swim, which is amazing. Jenny says thanks so much. Always learning. Audrey says the video was beautiful, Jo. Thank you.
And I will say that I can hand on heart say that it wasn't set up. Those parents were almost new mummies as well. So, you know, I do like to almost present how it is rather than to sort of re-record it 10 times and just edit to say, you know, this is what it can be. It's not, you know.
Linda says, love this webinar. Thanks, Emil. Amanda says, thank you so much. A lovely workshop. There's so many people that have said thanks for the wonderful talk. Yvonne says lovely ideas and points to ponder. I like that. And exactly what it is. It really gets us really thinking about how do we do our lessons. And when we come back and reopen, actually, how are we going to approach things? And I definitely think it is a time to change and approach things from a whole new perspective.
Great. Yeah, I think that's what Aquasensory is about. It is not a prescriptive program. It's there to provide questions. And actually, in fact, when we've got so many questions, it actually almost leads to more questions as well. So in our next webinars, again, we're going to be using this theme and reflecting practice. And actually, one of the things I don't want people to feel guilty or judging themselves as well. I think we are amazing as swim teachers, but definitely reflective practices and thinking about what we're doing in a more sensory aware approach is, you know, great for us to think on those lines, but to be kind to ourselves and compassionate too.
Absolutely. Jo, I think we're going to end there, and I just want to say thank you to you and everybody for coming onto the webinar today. Tomorrow, I'm so excited because Jo is talking about what every toddler swim teacher needs to know. Terrific toddlers that listen and swim. So I am super excited for that one tomorrow, and we can't wait.
Perfect. So as we connect on Aquasensory, we'll obviously keep up to date, and if anybody's got any questions, you know, to fire them through, because this is very much a introduction and, you know, a connection workshop really. So, you know, fire ahead if you want to connect and ask more.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. Joe, will you stop sharing your screen? And everybody that is left on the webinar, please can you turn on your videos, because we would love to take a screenshot of today, and we'll get one of everyone smiling, so you can all smile, and we'll take a screenshot. And why don't you also take a screenshot or get your phones and take a nice picture of everybody, and then you can post that on your social media platforms and let everybody know that you are upskilling during this time, and you are connected with tag Joe, tag Aqua Sensory in your posts, because that is, exactly. Show everyone that. So let's count to 3 and we'll all smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're going to do it again because someone wasn't there. He wasn't there. Okay, we're going to do one more. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. That's so cool.
Cool. You can send me yours, Tori. Did you get one, Tori?
I did. And I'm going to do one more because Tanya wasn't there. We just had a black screen. So I just want to wait for, okay, we're going to do one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I've got everybody. Awesome.
Well done, everybody. Beautiful. So yeah, let's start talking and connecting.
Awesome.
Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
We'll see everyone tomorrow. And Joe, do you want to just invite everyone to join your group as well? Because you've got an open Aqua Sensory group, don't you? Is it an open group?
I have, when people do the courses, there's a closed group, teacher group and tried group. Definitely connect on our open Facebook, because what I do every single week, I do research and I do put posts out that aren't just sort of like, this is what we're doing. I do put information together on our Facebook and our Instagram. So our closed groups is very much as a support group for people that have done our courses in the tribe, and everything that we do, we try to keep it very super good value. Every income that we get, we produce more materials and more research, and we collaborate with more professionals, so it's like a little circle. So that's what Aqua Sensory is about. It's a supporting network of like-minded professionals. My income and my swim school is SwimWorks. It's like my passion is Aqua Sensory, if that makes sense. So everything that comes in, we're developing and researching for you guys going out. So the more we connect, the better it. We have an expression called "Together we make a difference," and that's how it works. We grow together, we collaborate together, and we work together. So although I put everything together, it's very much a body of a huge amount of work. So as I say, the more people come in, the deeper it gets, and that's what is happening, which is amazing.
So if you haven't already, go over to the Aqua Sensory Facebook page and make sure that you like it and follow it, and interact with Joe's posts, because the more you interact, obviously, the more you're going to see those posts. Follow her on Instagram, and I would, again, really encourage you to join her tribe, because, of course, I'm part of those Facebook groups, and there's just so much support and value with that. Yeah. So I just want to say a big thank you for that, Joe.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because each week what we do is we photograph and video what we're doing in the pool, and then we show you, as well as working with experts with our database of information as well. So it isn't just, facts and figures, basically. It's real life stuff. So
if you've got any more questions, please drop them to Joe. Joe, which email address would you like people to email you at?
info@aquasensory.com. And if you've got people's emails, Tori, what I have got is a keep in touch fact sheet. I'll whiz that across to you, and then you can whiz it across to everybody, because there's loads of points of contact that on there.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. So, and I'm sure that if you've got any questions, pop them to Joe in the email, and she'll definitely love to connect with you and answer your questions. But otherwise, we'll see you all back here tomorrow.
See you later. Bye.
I just want to say a big thank you to Tanya as well, because she's also hosting this workshop and is doing all the admin behind the scenes.
Definitely.
So thank you, Tanya.
You're welcome, Tori. Hey, Charlie.
Tanya.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
Jo.
everybody.
Bye. See you later. Bye. See you tomorrow.
Tori, you can stop the recording. Hey, where's Tori gone?